The Blessed Lord said, "In this world there is a twofold path, as said before, O sinless one, the path of knowledge of the Sankhyans and the path of action of the Yogin."
Cool. So this was the context of the second chapter, where Arjuna is asking, should I, why should I act? I want to be a sannyasi, which basically means I want to be a renunciate. Back in India, and like I guess many traditions in different parts of the world, there is this idea that I need to renounce all action, where I need to go into a cave and meditate and don't do anything else, and doing any work is considered some lowly form of living. So Arjuna is on the battlefield, and he's extremely fearful, and he's telling Krishna that, and Krishna has sort of spouted this entire like yoga and the teachings, and he said that you have to renounce actions, we have to renounce all of that, and Krishna and Arjuna has sort of like understood it to be that I should not fight, and I should go and meditate in a cave in the forest or something, right? And Krishna here is saying, basically there is two paths in this world to gain self-realization. There is a path of knowledge, which is what Arjuna wants to do, which is I want to go and meditate in the cave. And then he's also saying that there's a path of action. And both of them lead to the same place. And based on where we are in life, one is prescribed over the other. And we will see why one is better or worse than the other. Cool. So that's sort of the context here. Krishna is saying there's two paths. So you want to go into the forest and meditate, and go down the path of knowledge. Hold on, there's also a path of action. All right, so let's do the next verse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You can also read the English if that's easier.
Okay. This may be a little beyond me, Puneet. That's the longest word I've seen.
It's fine, go for it.
Okay. Na karmana manaram bhane karmayam purusho nute. So na karmanaram bhane karmayam purusho nute na cha sanya sanadeva siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Not by the non-performance of action does man reach actionlessness, nor by mere renunciation does he attain perfection.
Cool. So even though this book says man, it doesn't necessarily mean man. It's just a person. Could be applicable both to a person, a woman, a man, anybody else. So like now Krishna is saying that so Arjuna does not want to act. He wants to go to a cave and not fight this battle, because there is fear and doubt, and he doesn't want to kill his uncle. So Krishna is saying not by non-performance of action does man reach actionlessness. And here actionlessness is one of the ways we can describe how we do work. So I guess in English it's the translation is a little weird, because actionlessness means that you're not doing any action, but actually that's not true. So when we do action, I can the way yoga describes it is that there is a sense of agency that we have when we do some action, which is, I am, I did that amazing project at work, or I solved this awesome problem, or I, earned so much money. There's this sense of ego, or like the sense of doership that arises when we do actions. Similarly, when we do things that we are not happy about, so like I screwed up, or I, didn't do well at work, or I, failed at this task, or whatever it is, there's a sense of ego, or this identity that sort of comes up when we do actions. And because of this idea that, I'm either going to succeed or fail, we end up not doing the action. So in this case, Arjuna, he needs to fight. Because he's at the front, he's at the brink of battle, he's at the battlefield, and now he's like, oh, actually, you know what? I don't want to fight, and I want to go to the cave. But that is basically not being a coward in that case, right? Because he's right at the battlefield, he's trained his entire life for this moment, and now he's like, no, I'm just going to go back, and cave sounds much better, because that's what yogis do, and that's what sannyasis do, and I want to get realized. The goal. He's being very clever, right? He's like trying to argue his way out of battle with Krishna, and he's like, I need to go to the cave, because that's what the goal of life is, to be liberated. If I fight, then I'm not going to be able to do that. And here Krishna is saying that if you don't perform what is right, or what is your duty, or what is in front of you, you are not going to reach perfection. And here perfection is, you're not going to reach the final goal of self-realization. So we have to, in our own lives, we have to do the things that are in front of us. They are in front of us because it is something that we have sort of gained or attracted in life, and it's our duty for us to perform those actions. If you're not doing that, then we are being, in a way, just like Arjuna, which is trying to run away from duties that need to be done. And here we cannot sort of justify our actions and say, oh, I'm just going to renounce my actions. We're actually not renouncing our actions. We are being cowards and being fearful. And Krishna is very smartly catching that, and he's saying, hey, dude, you gotta do your duty, and you gotta do what's in front of you. And if you don't do that, then you're not going to reach perfection. So that's sort of the implication of this verse. Any questions about that? Okay, let's do the next one.
Nahi kaschit namapi jatu tischayat tistatya karma karta karyate hayavasa karma sarva prakriti jagranua.
Verily, none can ever remain, even for a moment, without performing action, for everyone is made to act helplessly, indeed by the qualities born of Prakriti, nature.
Cool. So here again, Krishna is continuing that conversation, and he's saying, if you go to the forest, or or wherever you want to go and hide, you're still going to be thinking about the battle. You're still going to be planning and like imagining what's going on, who's winning, are my brothers alive, all of these things. Why? Because he loves to fight, or it's his nature to think about battle, because that's what his life has basically been, right? Like if we can look back at our lives and just see what are some of the things that we did in this moment, who we are or what we are or what are the things that we like are entirely based on all of our past actions, right? Like, so if you're a person who loves going on hikes and hanging out in nature, why? Because you're in the past, you have done those things, and those things have made you happy, and you want to continue to do them. And in this moment, that is your nature, and that's what you're going to be thinking about. So let's say all of your friends are going on this amazing camping trip, and you're not going, even though you want to go, and you're sort of suppressing the desire. You're going to be thinking about how much fun they're having in that camping trip, if you're suppressing that desire. So the same way, so Krishna is saying that, we have this nature in us, and that nature sort of guides the things that we end up doing in life. And however we want to try to run away from things, our nature is always going to be with us. So, Arjuna is trying to run away from battle, but his nature to always be in battle or be a warrior is with him. So that's gone with him to the forest. So in the forest, he's also going to be thinking about the battle. He's also going to be, wanting to go back, even though he has made a decision to not go. So, we are helpless in that sense. How many times have we tried to change our habit because we think we want to do something different, but it's very hard. Why? Because we are helplessly made to act in that way, because it's my nature to be that way. And here, the word that we use for qualities is guna. Guna is also a very sort of deep, very deep word, and we basically use it to describe the quality of our minds. And essentially, there's three kinds of gunas. There is tamas, there's rajas, and there's sattva. So there's three kinds: tamas, rajas, and sattva. And tamas is this guna which is when we have qualities, when our mind is feeling a quality of being extremely tired, very lazy, very lethargic. I don't feel like doing anything. I just want to chill out, sit on my couch, watch Netflix. I don't feel like doing any activity. Or maybe I'm just sitting in bed and sleeping. So those are sort of our tamasic qualities. We're feeling kind of low energy. And our mind, if you look at our, past experience, there have been moments in life where our mind has been that way, right? Where we feel very lazy. I don't feel like doing anything. And so that's tamas. And then the second quality is rajas, which is, I'm, full of desires. I feel like conquering the world today. I want to go finish this project that I've been planning for a while. I want to show off about all of the things that I've done. So it's this sort of frame of mind where I'm very active and I want to do stuff. I want to get things done, but all of it comes from this desire. If I do this thing, it's going to make me very happy. And, that's most of where, all of this activity in this world happens. We are doing things because we think that the end goal is going to make me happy. I want to get that cool. I want to put in a lot of effort to get that job that I really want. Why? Because I think that's going to make me happy. Or I want to do this project or write this amazing blog post because I think it's going to, whoever reads it, they're going to feel very happy. So it's always about the result. And that's where the sense, all of the work and all of the ideas that we have when we are in this rajasic frame of mind has this nature of I'll be happy when this thing is successful. And then the last one is sattva, which is, I'm doing action, but I'm not thinking about the outcome. I'm just doing stuff because it is in front of me and it needs to be done. So, the clearest example that we can have is, when we are really focused on a project, let's say, you're at work and or you're at home or you're cooking something and you're really focused on the cooking. You've completely lost track of time. You don't even think about what the final outcome is. You're just doing what is in front of you, and you're just so zoned out. People have called your name. You haven't even heard it because you're just your mind is gone. You're just focused on this one thing in front of you. In those moments, the sense of ego or the sense of self is not there at all. And because it's not there, we are not thinking about whether I'm going to be okay, whether this project is going to somehow make me successful, whether it's going to give me a better name or whatever it is. We're not thinking about all of those things. We're just thinking on doing the task in front of me. So our mind is in single pointed attention. So that's like the sattvic state of mind. So, we had three. So there's like the lazy aspect where I don't feel like doing anything because I'm like, oh, I'm too tired. I don't want to feel, I am not in a good mood, or the sense of I is right in front and it's very contracted, which is like, I am feeling too shitty. I don't feel like doing anything. I am very sad, whatever it is. That is tamas. Rajas is like, oh, I want to be successful. So there's a sense of desire. Like, I want to express myself, but I want to express myself extremely egoistically, which is like, I am the one who is like going to do this project. I'm the one who's going to gain the accolades, or I'm the one who's going to fail even, right? Like, so that it could be both sides, but there's still this deep sense of egoistic agent that is active in this rajasic state. And then finally in the sattvic state, we are just so focused on the project or like whatever task that is in front of me that the sense of ego is completely gone, where we are just focused on what we are doing. So a good example is when you're going hiking or like you're in nature. I just got back from a camping trip, which is why my mind is full of nature stuff. But when you're out in nature, we don't even think about the world, right? We're just like so focused on like just being in the moment. So being in the moment is like when you're mostly in the sattvic state of mind, where the sense of I is not there at all. You're not imagining about, am I going to be okay in the future? Or you're not thinking about anything from the past. You're just in the now. You're just like walking, or you're just driving, or whatever it is you're doing. So that's what the gunas are. And those qualities and those gunas determine what our nature ends up being. So I guess, today I like to drink tea, right? And why do I like it? Because in the past, I drank it many times and it has had a good effect on me. And when I drank it, I'm like, oh, it's the chai, which is very good. So now today, when I have a desire of like wanting to feel good, I think of chai, of like, okay, I should get some chai. So that's usually how our entire world and our entire set of impressions have been built over time, impression by impression, impression by impression. So all of our impressions that have happened in the past, based on what was the quality of my mind when I was enjoying those things. So, if I was in a very tamasic state of mind, my impression of the object will be very different versus when I was rajasic. So for example, let's say I got impressions in my early life that making money is what people need to do in life, because that's where happiness is. I need to be a millionaire. I need to like be ruthless. Do whatever it takes to be rich in life. If that was the impression that I got as a child, and I continued to, and it was unexamined impressions, today, if my life is all about making money, it's not that it came out of nowhere. It's because, those impressions were built over time, and I have absorbed them, and they were a very rajasic impression. So now my life is all about making money. Or, if the impressions I got as a child were to like, make somebody else happy, make my parents happy, or like whoever it is in your life, you want to make them happy. Today, if you're doing that, it's not that it's come out of nowhere. It's because in the past, the qualities of my mind, when I was doing those actions, have led me to be this person that I am today. And we are helplessly made to act, like Krishna says. And we are helpless because those qualities, those impressions are deep, and they just cannot be changed in just like, oh, you can't just drop it by just snapping your finger. We have to, do a lot of work to change the sort of the direction and the grooves that have been created over lifetimes in many ways. So we are helplessly made to act. So, if Arjuna is a person who loves to fight, he may say, okay, I'm going to not fight this. He's going to make a decision right now and say, I'm not going to fight this. But because he's made that decision in an egoistic way, because he's fearful and scared, he's still going to think about it in the forest if he's hanging out there. And that's not very helpful, because that's creating more and more bondage in a way. And the first verse that we did, which is we want to lead me from darkness to light. He's going more into darkness because his mind is getting more and more contracted. Instead, what we want to do is we want to do actions and like break those bonds that we are sort of built over our entire life. So that's some context about this. We will go more in depth. But does anyone have any questions about things that I've said so far?
I do. So Prakriti or nature that we just read in this verse is what you're saying is conditioning. And it's different from true nature, like what we talked about in Vedanta. Just to clarify that they're different.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So Prakriti is more about like, it's exactly like the English word, which is nature has two meanings, which is could mean the external environment, or it could be your internal like nature, right? And here Prakriti here is the externals, which is, and externals here is even the mind, because from the standpoint of who you are, even the mind is external.
Right.
So there's this divine nature within us which illumines even the mind, illumines even our bodies, illumines this entire universe. So anything which is not that, which is your divine nature, is this other nature, which is Prakriti.
Which is what is being referred to here.
Correct.
Okay.
So the word was Prakriti. Where was this? 5, right? Yeah, Prakriti.
Puneet, I had a question. So, sorry, hi, Ashmita. So can these gunas be applied to things and not human nature, in the sense that we talk about like sattvic food or sattvic habits? Can you explain that a little bit?
So yeah, that's a great question. So yes, so there are foods that we can eat that can sort of increase the sattva in us. So there's like, we all, at every moment in time, there's a certain amount of sattva, there's a certain amount of rajas, there's a certain amount of tamas in us. And when things go out of whack, then we become like super lazy, and you just like feel like being in bed and like not getting out, right? Or like if you're super in rajas, you're just like, oh my god, I'm like the king, like I'm so awesome, like that's the rajasic nature. And then we want to ideally be in the sattvic state, because that's the state in which we have the most peace in life, and that's the state in which we can break sort of our the spiritual work that we're doing, which is break our old karma and a bond that we are holding on to. So yes, there are certain foods that you can eat that can increase stuff, which is why I don't eat like crazy rich food all the time, because why? Because you just feel really shitty after the meal, right? You can't really do any like real work or whatever you're trying to do. But food actually doesn't always mean literally physical food, right? Like that's one kind of food, but then food is also like all of the information we are gathering in our senses. So if we are like, watching reality TV shows all the time, I think that's a very tamasic input that we're getting into our lives as well, which is, we are just like watching stupid shit all the time, right? So we kind of have to be careful with even our, sense, whatever food that we're gathering from our senses as well. So are we listening to interesting, like more, useful things? Are we seeing useful things? Are we here, so those are the senses as well as physical, which is like, am I eating good quality food as well? Does that answer your question, Ashmita?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. So yes, please. So that's actually, in the beginning, when we start the spiritual work, a lot of focus is on the do's and don'ts of life, which is like these disciplines that you have to do. It's not that necessary. Like I think like when you're a monk or like a nun or something, that's probably like, you need to have some discipline in life. But if you're like, like a householder, or like you have like, you're not in a renunciate, I think it's not that necessary to be that disciplined. But just be aware and conscious that yes, I'm eating this thing, it is going to have an effect on my body and my mind. And same thing with the sensory inputs as well. Cool. Any other questions? Okay, let's do one more.
Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jyayo haya karmana. Sharira yatrapi chatena prasiddhaye prasiddhayeda karmanaha.
Awesome.
You perform your bounden duty, for action is superior to inaction. Even the maintenance of the body would not be possible for you by inaction.
Perfect. So here again, he's saying that, you can choose to run away, but that's not an intelligent way of living, because action is always superior to inaction. So, our tendency to be like, oh, I don't wanna, I don't want to do this thing. So that's basically our aversions that are coming into play, where I don't feel like doing this task because, I'm just feeling lazy. But we don't realize that when we sort of go along this sort of indulgent tendency of our mind, which is I just want to indulge in like pleasure all the time, and not doing work is in a way indulging pleasure, which is I just don't want to like, because I have this idea that if I do the work, it's like burdensome or tiring or whatever it is. Like I don't want to go through that process, and I just want to like indulge in being in this moment right now. That's actually creating bondages, which is I'm so you can think of like this not an earthworm, but like some worm, which is like spinning a cocoon around you. So every time we sort of like say indulge, we are basically creating like a string which we are wrapping ourselves with, and soon what happens, it's like we're completely covered in a cocoon where we're just like depressed, right? Because what has happened is we have constantly indulged in our mind, which is giving us ideas that you should be whenever an aversion comes up, we go down that path of aversion. Whenever a desire comes up, we go down the path of the desire. So we're getting very sort of we're creating these pathways in our brain, which is like going down whatever it presents, be it like aversions or be it like cravings. And instead, if we can see that they're just aversions and cravings, then we can like not follow what they suggest, but doing what is necessary in front of us, which is why the word here duty comes into play. But of course, duty can be misconstrued in many ways. But basically, duty means that whatever is in front of us. Right now, in this moment, you're in class, so like I guess it's your duty to listen to the class. If you're thinking about something random, then you're not. I would say. I guess that's a bad analogy, but like if let's say you were, you needed to be at a meeting at work and you have to like, listen to what's being said because that's your duty. You're getting paid to do that, and if you don't do that, you're creating more bonds of like your brain being distracted and not being focused on like what's important. So duty, you can always look at duty as like what's happening in my life right now. And if I need to act in a certain way, that's my duty. Or even if the thought comes that, oh, I shouldn't be doing that, there's something to look at, because your mind has presented to you an idea that, you shouldn't be doing this thing. But even the fact that it presented that idea means that you have to look at it in some way. So a good example is like, let's say there's these, we are in California or like in the US, there have been protests happening about, Black Lives Matter and all these things. If there are, if an idea comes that, oh, I should be maybe participating or I should not be participating, then there's something to look at. If the idea doesn't even come, then you're fine. Like that means that it's not something that you're attracted to. But let's say, there's an idea that comes in and says, oh, should I be going to the protests or should I not be going? It means that there's some karmic thing in you which is sort of attracting you to it. So then you have to understand and you have to make the decision of whether, there's something that needs to be done. So that's kind of how I think about duty, which is, whatever is coming up in your life, that is your duty in some ways, which is we have to take a look at it impartially without our aversions or desires and just see, is there something that I need to do? And do it. Because if we go with the action, then we are sort of breaking, and you may not like it, right? Like, so you may do, let's say, you go to a protest or something because your mind says, you may want to explore it and you're like, okay, this is not something that I would want to do. And then it's out of your brain completely because you're like, okay, tried and tested and done. But instead, if we try to suppress and say, okay, I don't want to do it because of whatever reasons, then the idea keeps coming up, then it's not useful. And what's happening is the seed of the aversion has been planted. And now every time that idea pops up again, we have not dealt with the idea. And it'll, and we'll try to suppress it again. And then it'll come up again. We'll try to suppress it again. So we are planting more and more of these seeds, and we're sort of breaking our psyche in a way. So do actions. And that's what Krishna is saying. Do action, because not acting is inferior to acting. And like he says, like even like going to the cave and saying, oh, I'm just going to sit and do nothing, sit in my chair. But even then we're acting because, there's all kinds of actions happening in our body. There's, food is getting assimilated, digestion is happening, breathing is happening, circulation is happening. So all of this is happening. So there is action happening. It's just that, we think we are not acting, but action is also happening even in moments when we are sitting still. So the teaching here, or like the tool here is like, given a choice between acting and not acting, act, because acting is superior to inaction. So even in situations at work where we feel, oh, I shouldn't say something because there's this fear of like, what will people think? Go for it, because action is superior to inaction, even though the consequence may be you may look like a fool. But I think that is still superior, because there's this, we are developing this habit of like, I want to do things because it's, you're starting to listen to your mind. Your mind only presents things to you which you attract yourself towards, or which you gravitate towards. So once we start having that confidence of like doing things that are presented to us, then we will start to be able to discern what is right from what is wrong for me. And it's not like absolutely right or wrong, but what feels right and what feels wrong. And the sense of intuition starts to develop. And that's sort of why we say action is superior to inaction. Because if we are inactive, we are like, we are not even discovering what is this intuition that exists in all of us. Cool. Any questions about this one? So we have about 24 minutes. So I think I want to like reserve about 20 minutes for a meditation at the end of the class. So that's usually how we structure this class. We do about 20 minutes of meditation at the end of the course. And the meditation is going to be something we all should strive to develop a meditation practice. I mean, I know it's hard to do that, but it'll be very helpful, especially if you're serious about this work. Because what meditation does is it allows our mind to, for those moments that we are meditating, or there may be a few moments in your meditation where it is released, the mind is sort of released from the worldly sort of things that we're thinking about. And even if it's for a few moments, it could be microseconds, but because of those microsecond flashes, it's developing this power that that we are able to exist, or like the mind starts to get this confidence that is able to exist without having to keep worrying about the things in the world. That the world is going to be okay. We don't have to keep thinking about the world. It's going to be fine without us. And if we have those few moments, then those few moments become slightly longer, and then we are able to abide in the moment, in the presence of just you, and be with yourself. And there will be an experience where the mind will completely dissolve. And that's where we want to get to, where we can dissolve the mind. And then when we come back into the world, the mind can come back again. And then you can dissolve the mind again, and you can come back again. And that gives us huge amounts of freedom, because then the world can be whatever it is. We have the ability to, not be so affected by it, which is why meditation is important. Even when we're doing karma yoga, because even though I said that it's for people who don't find time to meditate, but it's helpful if we do meditate. So hopefully at least once a week you'll get to do that here. But even if it's for 5 to 10 minutes every day, that would be very helpful. Okay, cool. So let's start the meditation. So everyone, sit in a comfortable position. Hopefully, if you're lying down, I would recommend to sit up straight. If you're feeling sleepy, feel free to keep your eyes open. So let's start by sitting up straight and taking a few long, deep breaths. And just noticing if your head, neck, and back are aligned in a straight line, and your head feels, gentle, and it's resting gently on your shoulders. If it's not, you can try to maybe lean a little forward or backward. It just feels a little weightless. Continue to take deep, long breaths. Feel the air going into your nostrils, into your lungs, your chest expanding. On the exhale, just imagine letting go of all the tension that you're holding on to and just relaxing into your body. Do that again. Just feel the air going in. And on the exhale, relaxing even more. Take one last deep breath. And on the exhale, completely relax. So while we are breathing consciously, there's something that we have done to put your mind in a position of being a witness to your breath, where I can see that my breath is something that is happening to my body. I can see my lungs expand, see the lungs deflate. So we are always in meditation trying to put ourselves in the position of a witness. And we are trying to put our minds in a position of a witness. And what you'll notice is that the mind is wanting to think about different things, but there's something behind the mind, the sense of awareness, the sense of being, that's always illumining, even when the mind is thinking about memories or thinking about things in the future. There's always this awareness that's illumining everything. And we want to get familiar with this awareness. And we do that by, we can start by observing our breath. We're constantly noticing different sensations that may be happening because of the breath. Air going to your nostrils. The feeling of your chest expanding against the clothes you're wearing. So while we are observing, there's a relationship between you and what is being observed, where you are the witness and everything is stuff that is being witnessed, including your breath. If a thought or a memory comes up, it's also being witnessed. It's almost like you're sitting on a bank of a river, just watching the river flow. And there's stuff in the river where it's flowing, constantly flowing. The memories are flowing by, sensations are flowing by. Maybe you're feeling a certain emotion that's also being observed and flowing by. But it's constantly changing. But there's something that is not changing. It's the context in which the river is flowing. The background, the awareness that is illumining the river, illumining the thoughts, illumining the feelings, the emotions. That's always there. It's just that we never really thought to notice it. Our focus is most of the time on the objects in the river. You know, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? But in this meditation, what we're going to do is we're going to try to notice the background, the context in which our entire experience of thoughts and emotions occur. It's not something new that we gain. We're just noticing something that's always been there. It's always in the background. So keep paying attention to a particular object if that's makes it easy. So something like your breath is a good object to focus on because it's always happening. But always pay attention to the space between the inhale and the exhale. So when you inhale, pause for a second before we take the exhale. And in that pause, try to see if you can notice who or what it is that is observing the breath. There's this deep sense of emptiness that you may feel, this feeling of a sky, just this sense of awareness. Try to get familiar with that. May not be something that you notice, that's fine, but keep noticing breath if that's your object. If thoughts are coming up, that's fine. Just acknowledge that thoughts are coming up. But bring your attention back to the breath. But even if you notice thoughts coming up, there is a moment when the thought finishes and then potentially a new thought begins. We want to focus our attention on the gaps, which is when the thought ends and the thought begins. The same thing with the breath as well. You want to notice when a breath ends and when the breath begins. There is a gap. And in that space, try to notice what this awareness is. And you won't see this awareness as you see the breath, like an object or like you see a thought, because it's the context. You are the awareness. Who is it that's going to see the awareness? You are that. So it's more of a feeling, more of the sense of being, the space of emptiness. Call this Akash, the sky. And in the sky, there's clouds passing by. You can notice a breath, you can notice some thoughts. They just appear for a while, and then they go back into the sky of nothingness. So this is our practice. We're going to stay with the sense of awareness. Be absolutely aware about any thought, any emotion. But you don't want to go causation hunting, try to understand why we are having these thoughts. You just want to notice that, yes, thoughts are happening, or emotions are happening, or whatever it is that you're noticing, but they're there. But try to see who is it or what is it that is illuminating. We want to focus on the source. If you notice that your mind has wandered and started to focus on the contents of the thought, just acknowledge that it has happened and get back to the bank of the river. Every time we flow and jump into the water, the moment we realize we are flowing, just bring yourself back onto the bank, back onto the position of being a witness, just watching it flow by. You want to stay conscious, and this is a thing that requires a lot of attention and effort, because our habitual tendency is to get involved in our thinking, to start adding to the story of the thoughts being presented. We want to change this habit, and changing this habit is going to take some effort. And it's not going to happen in a day or in a week. But just by staying conscious, just watching, and not getting involved. And when we do get involved, just watching even that we have gotten involved and stepping out. Just takes a moment to realize that we are involved. And the moment we realize that, we just want to step out of the flow. Slowly bring your attention back to objective reality. You start by focusing on sounds around you. Whenever you're ready, you open your eyes. So I want to end this class by doing another chant. It's usually in our tradition to start the class and end the class in a chant. So let me share my screen again. Can folks see my screen? Okay. So this chant is from a hymn called Bhaja Govindam, and it's a very beautiful chant, and same way that we did the chant in the beginning. Feel free to join or just listen. Yeah, up to you. Here we go. Yogarato va bhogarato va yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sangavihina sangarato va sangavihina yasya brahmani ramate chitta yasya brahmani ramate chitta nandati nandati nandatyeva nandati nandati nandatyeva nandati nandati nandatyeva. And the English translation is this. Let one revel in yoga, or let one revel in bhoga. And here bhoga is usually the way we live our lives, which is, trying to satisfy as many desires as possible and seek enjoyment through that. Let one seek enjoyment in company, or you want to be with people, or in solitude. But only her mind, whose mind revels in the self, which is the divine source within us, only she really enjoys, and only she enjoys. So it's a beautiful verse. It kind of encapsulates the entire teaching of yoga and the purpose of why we do it, which is we want to be blissful and ecstatic human beings, and we can be that in any context. So that's the end of the class. Thank you all for participating and joining. I hope this was useful. And just like the previous class that I've done, I'm happy to hang out with folks who have any questions or want to talk about anything. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet.
Thanks, Vasily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Puneet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet.
Thank you, Puneet.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Puneet.
Thanks, Puneet.
Thanks, Karthik. Thanks for chanting.
Yeah, I tried. It was surprisingly difficult.
It is.
Yeah.
Uh,
In a couple
I
of
think it
days
becomes
since
easier if you do it in the meter, because it's kind of written in a way to kind of like, it's like 8 syllables per line. So it's like na. So there's like a tune, and once you get that tune, then you can just kind of like read it in that tune, and it becomes much easier. Right. Sound is here.
But some of those words, like the longest word ever in Sanskrit. What's up?
Yeah.